Hi, everyone. Welcome to episode 4 of the USA Rugby Clubhouse, brought to you by therugbyshop.com for all your rugby apparel needs. I'm one of your hosts, Mike Petrie, joined by superstar himself, Ben Foden, who is fresh 24 hours-ish off of your performance yesterday. How you feeling, Fodes?
Feeling it today, a little sore. I can never get used to playing on turf. It's always a bit different from playing back in England. Everything was grass, and then turf was just coming in. So it's showing my age now that all these young kids
just a little suggestion on a Monday after the Sunday game. If you get a suit that fits a little bit better, it's not so tight, you might not feel
compression. I've been
your muscles a chance to actually breathe, and recover. No, but then I guess is that a compression suit? Is that one of your
called, yeah,
compression suit?
Yeah, you can pick yours up as well from the rugbyshop.com.
Rugbyshop.com compression suit. Make you look good. You look sharp.
Listen, Mike, you can't come at me. You've been wearing the same suit for the last 4 weeks, mate. People style.
They don't sell this suit at the rugbyshop.com. That's why. Oh man, but what an exciting show we have tonight. We've had a couple of good ones already so far in the first 3 episodes. We've got a former teammate of mine, good friend of mine that I played with for a while, Andrew Durutalo of the Seattle Seawolves, is going to join us in a little while. But first, before we get to that, let's talk a little bit about all the action from this past weekend. And Fodes, where do you want to start? Where should we start this conversation?
Let's just start by saying we are the worst predictors of this season and this competition that have ever lived, I feel. I literally got 0. I was 0. Everything I said, it went the other way. At least you went with LA. Let's start with LA, because for me, they are the real deal. I thought this was the first test for them, going away from home. I thought it was going to be, we'd see a bit of travel in their legs. But obviously the game was actually played at NOLA, so it didn't really favour Toronto too much either, so they had to do a bit of travelling. But LA blew them away again, 43-16. What can you say? They look really good. Big Luke White in the forwards was dominating. Matt Gitto in the 10 shirt was pulling the strings nicely. Took a late hit as well, so and bounced back to his feet and played on. Yeah, they look like the real deal to me. Your good mate Ryberg was on the wing as well, bowling over people, looking like the strongest winger that's ever lived. They look the part. They do really look the part.
I think Los Angeles is soon to be the most hated team in the league, and they've only been around for 4 games. They're going to become like the Yankees or the Patriots of rugby very soon, like very, very quickly. It's just going to be like when they're right on the schedule, everyone knows that that's basically a Los Angeles win right now. I mean, but they've got all the big names, like you said, and that doesn't always win games, right? It's not all about the names that you have, but they seem to be playing a really good brand of rugby, and they're putting the pieces together really nicely. So like you mentioned, though, Toronto was off a great win last weekend. We both thought maybe they would have a chance. I mean, you definitely thought more than I that they would have a chance. I kind of knew Los Angeles was going to hold it down, but Toronto, I've said this before, they don't really have a home game, right? There's no real home for Toronto right now. And so they did have that great performance the other weekend against DC, but they had to play down in New Orleans, which is generally, as you know, a very uncomfortable place to play. So to play there as your home ground is difficult. But Los Angeles traveled well. Credit to them. They made that almost cross-country journey, went down to New Orleans and put in another solid, sound performance all around.
They did, and the thing with LA is that they really do ooze quality across the whole board. If you look at all the positions, even the young 9 that you've mentioned from previous weeks scoring the tries, just the way him and Gitto are working in the 9-10 partnership. I think Gitto posted a picture of himself standing next to, it's called Harrison, isn't he? Like 9-10 years old. So, a dream for that guy, playing in the MLR with one of his idols growing up, and then playing alongside one of the best players to have played the game. And you can just see that they're loving life. They're loving life the way they play. Toronto, yeah, you got to feel for Toronto because they are struggling, just not having a home base. And I thought they were piecing their season together because things were starting to look like it was back on track last week, and then the wheels came off again this week. I mean, they did play LA, who are a very good team, but I think they'll be disappointed with what happened. They really did get taken apart and dismantled pretty easily by the LA team. So plenty to work on for Toronto. LA up there to be shot at, and I think they'll be there for a long time to be shot at. So
I think so too. I don't think they're going anywhere. But just listening to you talk a little bit about being a 9 and playing with your childhood icon at 10, I remember the thought of even playing potentially so, like with Johnny Wilkinson one day would have been like a dream come true. So I could only imagine how that's going out there in Los Angeles. It's like
Exactly.
crazy. When I think back to it, just throwing passes out to him would have been really cool, but never got to live that dream. But it seems to be happening there in Los Angeles, and the magic is working, right? They're really doing a fantastic job. So credit to them. They've not just put out big names, but they put out big performances as well.
And it was a double header down in New Orleans as well, because obviously you mentioned LA and NOLA went down there, and then the second game was obviously NOLA versus Austin, and we knew that was going to be a tight affair. We knew that both teams were sort of on form, gaining momentum. I felt that the favour was with NOLA, just because they'd had a rest week. They put in a massive performance against RUNY the week before. I thought they'd be ready and primed to come out firing, but all credit to Austin. It was a real scrappy game. It wasn't the NOLA from the RUNY game. They made a lot more mistakes. They looked a little bit uncomfortable at times, and both sort of looked like they might win the game. NOLA scored with probably 7-8 minutes to go, and you thought that was going to be it. And then so all of a sudden, Austin get a bit of momentum, take the ball forward, and a little cheeky crossfield kick for Fraser Waters to dot down in the corner. And what really disappointed me is that the commentators did not get excited about it at all. They were like, "Oh, he's kicked it across. That's a try. That's a try." I was like, "Come on, guys." In the last play of the game, they did a crossfield kick. Fraser Waters gathered it. It wasn't an easy gather either. Scored in the corner to win the game in the last play. I was like, you should be jumping off your seats and going mad, but maybe they were NOLA fans. I'm not sure.
Take notes. Fodes wants to be a commentator when he's finished his career at RUNY. He's going to be the kind that jumps off his seat and gets the crowd psyched up and gets everybody involved. No, but look, it's true. I mean, that sort of play deserves so much energy and attention, and not discrediting the commentary, but just in general, like what a tremendous way to end the game, and to do so in such that fashion is unbelievable, on a crossfield kick nonetheless. I mean, that's a real roll of the dice sort of, and it seems to have gone well. High risk, high reward for Austin there. And they're, like we've said, they're an athletic team. They're coming off of a great win last weekend against Houston. They seem to be on the up and up, and I'm excited for them. That's a program that hopefully can bring some of their athleticism and start to really play some good quality rugby.
Yeah, and what I love about Austin as well is the 10 realizing they had advantage at the end and taking the chance with the crossfield kick. I think that shows where they've come. They didn't really have a 10 like that playing for Austin over the last couple of years, who would see opportunities like that and then be able to execute the kick as well. So he had a kick to score to win the game, or he's going to take an easy 3 points to tie it up. So it was a no-brainer. But sometimes in the heat of the moment, those sort of decisions can be lost, and you're looking back at video going, "Oh, why didn't I take a chance?" or "Why didn't I do this? Why didn't I do that?" So it's really good to see Austin having someone steering the ship. And is it Mason who plays 10 for them? Who's looking really solid out there, and looks like Austin are going to be contenders this year. They've only lost 2 games, both by one score. I think it was 3 points, 2 points. Now they started to fix some wins together, and some momentum's favouring them. And obviously Gilchrist would be happy having 2 sides that are looking pretty good now as well.
I was just going to say, same ownership. I imagine he's sitting pretty happy these days, looking at the leaderboard on the Western Conference with both of his sides putting in good performances in the past couple of weeks and sitting top of the table. So.
And the third game of the week was Houston and San Diego. I call it to be the game of the week. And it lived up to it. It was an exciting game. Houston managed to break that horrible hex they had on them, not scoring any tries for 2 whole games, or any points for the 2 previous games. But came out the blocks firing. They looked good, especially in the centers. They looked good. 34-32 was the end score. But San Diego, what is going on in that camp? They haven't got a problem scoring tries. The thing I'm starting to question now is their defense. They're just leaking. They're leaking. Normally they're a very dominant, team in terms of in the pack. They're normally dominant, tough, and they don't, concede very many points in terms of tries or even kicks. But this year they just seem to be a leaking boat.
Yeah, they're still missing Nate Augsburger at 9. I think that he's been the pulse of their team for quite some time. But you're right. I mean, it's been, I think, so far between them and Seattle has been the biggest surprise overall. And it's it's got to be frustrating for them. You know, they're a team that's used to being cream of the crop, top of the table. They had some big signings. They've got some big signings now coming in. They've just signed Paddy Ryan, hopefully to bolster their front row. He's a player that's been with them for a while, and hopefully he can bring some of that leadership in that they desperately need right now. But you know, they've got some great flair. They got some great players, but they seem to be missing, like you said, that really important element. And it could very well be defense, right? And it could be that that's where their Achilles heel is right now, and they're suffering as a result of it. So frustrating for them. You know, we talked about before the show started, we talked about Joe Peterson missing that kick at the end to tie it up. And as much as I'm a fan of Joe Peterson, and I love Joe Peterson, he's hit plenty of kicks against us to eliminate us and you know, send San Diego over the edge. So look, kind of like, you know, Michael Jordan-esque. Sometimes you hit him, sometimes you don't. You know, that obviously wasn't San Diego's day, but credit to Houston. I was on the phone earlier with one of their coaches, Paul Emmerich. He was over the moon, excited and happy about a good win over a good Legion side. So, you know, I'm really happy for him and really happy for that team down there. And not to mention, speaking of crossfield kicks, I do believe that Zach Pangilinan was a crossfield kick to Zach for the SaberCats, I think, if I'm not mistaken, right? Caught the ball across the field, made a Sonny Bill-esque offload to score a really fantastic try. So, you know, another team that's taking risks right now. We talked about earlier with Austin doing it too. You know, teams that like Houston was bottom of the table for a little while, sitting down at the bottom, and they're taking some chances. They're playing exciting rugby, and I think that's not only the type of stuff that earns you respect and earns you wins, it brings fans out. It's just, you know, it's starting to get them some momentum, I think. So I'm excited to see how Houston continues to roll with what they've been doing.
Well, I don't like to big up Houston too much after what happened last time I picked them up. So I'm going to keep my mouth shut. But yeah, delighted for them to get the win. Add insult to injury as well. Chris Robshaw's first game out with a dislocated shoulder. So that's him sidelined for at least a month, you feel. So from bad to worse for San Diego. Yeah, like you said, they're bringing in a few guys. Paddy Ryan will give them a bit of an edge and a bite in that front row, and they're still making signings, I hear, as well. So a few other guys might be coming in. So wait to announce those. But yeah, listen, San Diego, they'll get there eventually. I think they're still trying to piece it together. I think going back home to San Diego, now they're not in Vegas anymore, that's going to help them as well. They'll feel a bit more at ease being in San Diego. But yeah, plenty to work on for them, I feel. But you never write anyone off on week 4 of the season. There's plenty of rugby to be played. The next game was Utah versus Seattle. Seattle on the road to Utah. Utah, to me, have been playing some brilliant rugby, and they were sort of front runners to sort of be, you know, top of the table. I think they were top of the table because they had a game in hand against LA. But Seattle finally pieced together an 80-minute performance. They were stingy in defense. They were ruthless in their attack as well when they took their chances. And, you know, it's hard to, you know, I think that Seattle deserved the victory as well. Last week with the Free Jacks, I felt that Utah were probably disappointed that they didn't win the game. Whereas this one, they couldn't really, you know, they couldn't really be arguing too much. I think Seattle had hold of them by the scruff of the neck and sort of, you know, took it to the end and finished the game off.
So I think I read somewhere the past couple of days about from one of the Seattle social media pages about something about the wolf climbing the hill is not nearly as hungry as the wolf that's sitting at the top, or no, wait, the wolf climbing the hill is hungrier than the wolf that's sitting at the top. So they're obviously down at the bottom of the table. I botched that one, but they're at the bottom of the table. They're a team that's hungry, right? They needed that break. They needed that win. Utah's a team that started off really hot. They came off a loss last weekend against New England. You know, it was the perfect opportunity for Utah to kind of step in and have their day. And they did. And credit to them. Like you said, they started to really show signs of the Seattle team we've seen in the past. They just actually signed recently a former teammate and roommate with the USA team of mine who's been playing in France for quite a while, Seta Tulavuka. So Seta's there now. He brings a wealth of experience to that side now in the midfield for them. We're still waiting to see the big man, Samu, in the lineup. I keep looking every week to see when Samu's name's going to pop up. But look, Seattle's another organization. They don't have 2 titles under their belt for nothing. You know, they're an outstanding side, and to see them win is never a surprise. But this season, for sure, it has been a surprise to see them lose so much. So credit to them for getting it right this past weekend for sure, and obviously proving us wrong as we've been going with Utah for that game, with
Yeah.
Utah for that game at home.
There you go. This is what's been so surprising about the season so far, though. You can't, everyone is capable of turning up, and you look at a few games like Seattle aren't there, they're not at the races this year, and then they play a very strong Utah team away from home and turn it on. They've made a few signings, like you said. I think that's going to help them. I think they realized they were a little bit light in a few areas, but they've got that depth now. But just after that lackluster start, maybe their wheels have aligned, they're back on the track, they're going to get some momentum now. So I think Seattle will be a team to look out for. They could be looking for a few more scalps for sure. And talking of scalps, RUNY came up trumps at the weekend and took a big one down at Atlanta. So I won't talk about it too much. I'll let you do the praise, Mikey, because it was a good day at the office for the boys.
See now, folks, there could have been there could have been your win over the weekend, right? That could have been the one prediction you got right last weekend, and you decided to humbly bow out. But you could have just said, "We're going to go down to Atlanta, we're going to win," and you could have had like at least one in the win chart for yourself for getting it right. But look, that was a game that I know Atlanta's a good side, but obviously, I'm biased in my view of New York. And you guys have a fantastic team. And I mean, just that play you ran down the sideline where Fawcett threw the ball in, came around like he was faking appeal to the open side. And then you went down the short side with Andy Ellis and then finishing inside. I mean, just an outstanding play, like textbook, like you probably couldn't have run that better at practice. And, that's the sort of class that RUNY has this year. And it's exciting to watch you all play. And so for me, I'm not surprised that you went down there and put in the win, but hopefully you can continue to build on those performances in the coming weeks because you have your first home game coming up this weekend.
We do indeed.
Yeah, we're all excited for you to stay home this weekend and have a game around here.
Well, what I'd say is that there is a massive thing about playing away from home rugby, and I think what we learned from NOLA is that you can't just go out and try and run teams ragged, and you've got to have a little bit more structure and a little bit more strategy. And I think we implemented that well against Atlanta because they did it the week before and they had a very good kicking game and their back three played very well. So we knew that with our kicking game, we were going to have to pin them back and make them kick poorly back to us. And they didn't quite have the success their back three had in last week's game. So I think that's where things really told. And obviously we were trying to throw the ball around at the end and get that fourth bonus point try. And they scored a couple of tries at the end. But it was a good game. I think Atlanta will be disappointed just because, they had a good win the week before. They were looking to sort of make it two in a row, gather momentum. And I think the East Coast is just completely wide open now as well. I think everyone's 1-2 or 1-2 lost 1 or 1-2 lost 2. And so it's a bit up in the air. I think there's some big fixtures. I think when we start playing each other, obviously we're against DC next weekend and obviously the Free Jacks are going to be in play. And I think things are going to start panning out a little bit and we'll see who's going to be top of East Coast and West Coast from there on out.
And just to throw this in there too, I mean, you sort of had to go into Atlanta this weekend with some sort of structure and strategy because that's a team that's going to be well drilled. They've got Scott Lawrence down there leading the charge as head coach, and he is like the prime example of a coach that's going to have his team really well drilled on both sides of the ball. They're going to play clinical, they're going to play tactical, they're going to have a really good structure in place. And you commented that really well. You went down there and gave it right back to him and did a fantastic job. But like you said, a lot more things moving and shaking and happening this weekend. So a lot to look forward to on the table, including, like we said already, your first home game here on Sunday against DC. So how excited are you to not have to be on the road this weekend, folks, and to play at home?
It is going to be a nice feeling just waking up, not knowing that we just have to like drive down the road as well. We figured out that we're playing in Jersey as well, just down the road from my training ground. So that's going to be a lot of weight off of mind as well. We didn't have to go down to MCU Park on the train.
So wait, so you're not going to miss taking the N train to rugby games?
For an hour and a half.
You're not going to miss the subway rides to games. That doesn't do it for you. It doesn't get you going. It's not
a little car trip now. It's going to be perfect, mate. So yeah, rolling out the bed, a couple of hours before kickoff, have a bit of breakfast, it is, and then roll in. It'll be very nice. It'll make all the difference in my legs as well. I'm no young pup. We talk about it every week. So it'd be nice for me to just have a nice relaxing day in my own bed or relaxing night in my own bed the night before the game, and then have a brisk stroll down out to Jersey City and hopefully put in another big performance.
So we'll get to some of those games in a little bit. We'll talk about the games coming up on tap for this coming weekend. But first, before we do that, let's transition here, folks. Let's take a look at this past weekend's highlights that we've been talking about and show you what's been going on around the league. And so here's your highlights from week 4, courtesy of the MLR.
Got some options. New Orleans has the numbers.
Yeah, offside. That's 17. Yeah.
Austin playing with house money. It's their ball.
That's a great play. That's a try. That's a try.
Take full advantage for Austin.
That was beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful kick pass to Roger Quader.
Now you have a number, please. On the collapse. Peterson.
Thank you.
Flat pass. Africa.
Play
puts it on the boot. Basson coming quickly. Needs a bounce. What a bounce. What a try. The two South Africans combined. Make that 3. Peterson as well. Peterson with the advantage. Flat pass. Great line. Oh, big collision midfield. Mitchell. Dicky Lati. Peterson, chip over the top, needs the bounce. Oh, talk about a dream bounce for Peterson. The Sabercats players collide, and Peterson, he will dot it down next to the post. He knows he's a kicker anyway. You get 7 points.
And watch Joe Peterson, the vision, deft touch off the right boot. Freire and Boyer miscommunicating, both going for the ball at the same time, and sometimes you just get lucky.
Won an Oscar for something, I'm not sure what, but he's doing lunges through the Rocky Mountains.
Was living in a Winnebago before it was cool.
Use it.
Crossfield kick from Povey. Oh, there's a lot of space. Pangeline on the floor. How about the round the corner? Sonny Bill, eat your heart out. I'm going back to the well again because it's with another try for the Sabercats.
He knew that wraparound pass was coming. A beautiful ball there from Povey. And the wrap while Peterson's in the process of making the tackle.
Hind foot.
What a game we are having here on a Saturday night for Fox Sports. Big numbers. Clark's got gas. Clark has daylight, and that's all it takes. San Diego, Cam Clark, and now a chance to tie it up for Joe Peterson.
Play international rugby, not just for the national team, but spending most of his time in Europe playing rugby there.
Lineout is successful. More on those Seawolves signings in a moment. And then a break.
That's Duratalo with the break.
Andrew Durutalo making his way inside the 5, all the way into the try zone for the score. 5-0 on the incredible lineout and run from Andrew Durutalo. Retreating. Quick ball to the left to Barton. Tries to shed one man. Gives it up. Oh, and look at this run. Sinti Veni Tamaivena plows his way into the try zone for the 5-pointer.
Come down the short side, Ellis, a bit of space, back inside, Nawadi, Quinn Nawadi, the Canadian flyer. He'll dot it down next to the post. What a set piece play there from New York, and they get the opening try of this game.
That's going to go maybe off the top and into the backs, but watch Hermosize here. It's Ellis on the peel, and then the trailing winger, Nawadi, times it perfectly. Ellis does just enough, tickles that touch line.
Vakamalavo out wide. This is what we wanted to see, Brian. The 7 specialist for Fiji in open spaces. Leonard, beautiful flick pass. Now Ellis to his right, Holland's head. Straightens the attack, Holland's head, throws the dummy. Well, not since Moses parted the Red Sea have we seen something open up that easy.
Scouting this team last week, how quickly the defense comes up. Look at Petzer shoots up, then O'Keefe shoots up, but they have such a depth in their attack. That's the way you beat that rush defense. And then Holland's head, look at the dummy here, just sells it. Saulo, flat-footed. That's what you want. If you're a back, you want to see the mismatch.
Can't escape the grasp of Nate Breakley.
Fresh leg.
Kalasar slices through versus Hume. Now Van Vliet. Hume comes again. Van Vliet and Hume, can he dot it down? I think Hume Has he done enough? Mike Lash says no, it's a try for Atlanta.
Fresh legs here from Carlsa. Straight through the defense. They needed that burst of pace. Finds Van Vliet. Great job there. Luke Hume doing everything he can to.
Konnichiwa, watashi no namae wa Andrew desu. Sanju Nisai. I play for Seattle Seawolves, and you're watching the USA Rugby Clubhouse.
All right, folks, it's my privilege and honor to introduce tonight's guest, Andrew Durutalo, teammate of mine, friend of mine, played together for a while, played against him a couple times. I still have nightmares about those games. Love having him on the show. He's playing up in Seattle right now. Really excited to have a chat with him. Probably one of the most decorated American players of all time in terms of where he's played and what he's accomplished so far. So really excited to hear what he has to say. Andrew, welcome to the USA Rugby Clubhouse. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me on the show. And yeah, it's a pleasure to be on the show.
You've missed out the most important title to his name as well, that also belongs to my name, is World 10 Series champ as well. London Royals. Yeah, boy. There you go. Most important
London Royals all the way.
So Drew, you've done so much. You've played all over the world, but clearly you have a home there in Seattle. It's like no matter where you go and what you've done, you've always sort of made your way back, whether it was with Puget Sound Beach back in the day when we used to have those classic battles between Puget Sound and Nyack, or now playing with the Seawolves. I mean, of all the places you've played, I'm just curious, what's been your favorite place to play in? Where have you enjoyed your rugby the most throughout your career?
For me personally, you know, Seattle is a special place for me. It's where I started rugby when I moved back to America. So I was originally born in New York, but I think the Seattle guys brought me back to Seattle and gave me the opportunity. That's why I always feel like I'm always, you know, trying to give back to them, and especially the friends that I've made around here. But me personally, I think professionally, in a professional setting, I think playing in the UK is, you know, is probably one of my favorite places to play. I think I really grew there as a forward and as a back row.
Correct answer. There you go.
Correct answer. But notice he says I grew as a forward.
As a forward, yeah.
In the UK, right? That's
UK.
like
There you go.
That's where you really get your
those wet nights on a Newcastle pitch. Well, you know, Gloucester in the soaking rain. They'll teach you a few things about it in the forward pack. Nothing that we'll know anything about, Mikey. I'm just saying about.
No, but Andrew, you're a sevens guy too. I mean, look, you know, you went to the Olympics, you played on the circuit, you play back row, so there's a nice natural transition there for you. What you know, you've done it all. I mean, you've played Super Rugby, you've played in the Premiership, like we already said, the Olympics, Major League Rugby. I mean, outstanding. I mean, just unbelievable for accomplishments for an American athlete and a rugby player. So congratulations for all of that. You know, you mentioned you were born in New York. I'm just going to throw it out there that if you ever want to come back and play in New York, I'm sure that, you know, we know people in New York that could open up some spots for you here in the back row. If you want to move to the wing, we've had those conversations too. Fodes is probably on the outs, you know, but Drew, there's always a home here for you in New York. You know that for sure.
Tell us more about Seattle though, Drew. I want to know more about it. Obviously you've been there for a while. You've just scored a wonder try at the weekend, but things haven't been going your way this season. But obviously, COVID disrupted last season. You had a few hiccups, but before that, you know, Seattle really are the driving force in the MLR. They're back-to-back champions. What's it like wearing that crown and going into this season and you know, the feeling in the camp?
Right. Yeah. I mean, you know, they've won it for the last 2 years, and obviously, you know, the league has changed so much since then, and I think that's what we're realizing now, especially with you know, we've lost a lot of guys from the past seasons, especially you know, key positions, and you know, we're going through a transition phase as well, and I think we also have to understand that you know, the league has also changed in the amount of you know, foreign players that are in, and the level has gone up. Mm-hmm. So I guess, you know, and something I've been talking to a lot of my close friends about here in Seattle, like rugby buddies that I know pretty well. Just things that Seattle were able to do a couple of seasons ago. Probably won't fly right now in the MLR, just because the standard has gone high, and like the coaching that has come into the league has really driven up the standard of play, and just things around being more professional and stuff like that. So I guess I think we had a very good wake up call at last season. At the beginning of the season, we lost. I think we went 5 straight losses on the bounce or something like that. But similar start this season. But obviously, it was good to get the win. Obviously somewhere we can build on, and then just go from there. Take each week at a time, and I guess it's just about just being consistent in this league.
Yeah, I was really impressed with you guys this weekend, because you took on a very informed Utah team who, for me, have they've been the biggest surprise for everyone. They've used the time off, the 12-month period of having the respite from COVID, but they seem to have been kept together as a squad, and they've been working together, got new coaches, and they've really been impressive with the game. So not that I was writing off Seattle, but I thought you might be coming up against it. So to beat them the way you did, I thought you looked impressive. It looks like there's been a few changes and things sort of be pointing in the right direction now for Seattle.
Yeah, exactly. We know, going into the game, we actually knew, obviously Utah have a very big pack, and we also wanted to match physicality for physicality, and obviously taking away the set piece, which is probably one of the biggest weapons of driving mauls and controlling scrums, and just controlling possession, I guess. And then also playing in Utah, which is like altitude, trying to slow the tempo down just a bit, and try and manage the game properly, I think, as we went along. So I think although we came around with the win right at the end, I think there's a lot of positives and things we can still work on, going into a very good Toronto side down in Atlanta.
This all reminds me of the scene. Have you guys seen The Departed, where Jack Nicklaus is sitting there and he's like, "Heavy lies the crown," sort of thing? You seen that one? Like, you're sitting at the top of the table, like, for the past couple of years, you have been the team to beat. And now all of a sudden, Fodes and I have been talking about it the past couple of weeks. It's really strange to see Seattle down at the bottom lately, and I'm sure it is for you as well. And like you said, the league's changing. It's an evolving league. It's getting more competitive. Other teams are kind of jumping on the bandwagon of bringing in players from all over the world. The talent's going up. The competition's going up. But you guys have bolstered your standing a little bit recently. So, Fodes and I want to know, when are we going to see the big man? When are we going to see Samu step into the lineup? I saw Seta in there this weekend.
Yeah. So I'm gonna have a sore hamstring against RUNY. Against RUNY, I've got a sore hamstring.
Yeah. I think yes, Samu, he brings a wealth of experience, and just big energy, especially is well renowned on defense, and his ball carrying ability. I think that was a timely boost, especially after we went down to LA, and they set the standard of the new kind of a benchmark for an MLR team. So yeah, I think he might be ready in the next couple of weeks. Obviously he's been out of rugby for quite some time, so we're trying to also keep that in mind and manage him as he goes along. We were telling him, we think you still have a big 80 in you. He's just like, no, I'm good for 10, at least 5 minutes. So it's like, all right, yeah. So they're just trying to put him on the old F troop with the boys early in the morning. So we'll see how he goes this coming weeks.
I'm not all too worried about Samu. That he is just like a naturally gifted athlete. It seemed like no matter what he did when we were playing together, it didn't matter, right? Like rules of anything don't apply, like nutrition, all that stuff out the window. Exactly. Samu could just do what he wanted whenever he wanted, and it was
chewing his tobacco on the way to games, spitting in a cup. Exactly. Semi-final of a Heineken Cup.
So. Did I hear in Northampton they had in McDonald's like a cutout of the big man of Samu? Or they had
think they stole
Manoa burger or something. Manoa burgers.
They stole one of those scrum things from him, you know, when they lean over and then they put the Manoa head there, had it outside the McDonald's. Yeah, he was a different beast. Time to change for poor Sam though. I bet he was hurting out there on the training field doing laps and stuff. So trying to get him into condition. I bet he's not a happy chappy.
You know, obviously, like a lot of the boys, you know, haven't, you know, seen Samu play, a lot of the young guys. And, you know, when I think he came to a couple of the practices, and you can still see, like, you know, the skill never goes away. Like, all the fitness is not there. You can just see his, like, positioning and just coming off the line, especially, like, on defense. A lot of the boys, like, you know, he's helping the boys, like, you know, in that area where he's really good at. So, yeah, I think he brings a lot of good, positive energy to the squad.
They're jumping on YouTube. They're jumping on YouTube. They're watching his highlights, and they're like, "Oh, I don't want to practice against this guy."
Yeah. It's a shame that it's a shame that Samu's not born 10 years, you know, later, because having someone like Sam playing the level he was playing, you know, 6-7 years ago, like in the MLR now, he would be like a poster boy for American rugby, because he was, honestly, you know, I played with a lot of great players, and he was one of the best naturally gifted players I've ever played with. And some of the things he used to do on the field, you know, it was like to rival like Sebastian Chabal, who's a legend of France and stuff, you know, and he became one of the highest paid players in the world at one point, moving to Toulon from Northampton. And there's a reason for that, because he was one of the best players in the world. So, you know, if Sam was, you know, 10 years younger, I could see that he would be the stalwart of all American rugby, running the flag for Seattle, the double champs. And you know, I feel sorry for him a little bit. He just had to go and retire out in France in his vineyard, and now he's selling some fancy wine somewhere. But he's done all right for himself.
Between the two of you guys in that Seattle pack, I can imagine that would be an absolute nightmare to practice against without a question. But so we've thrown some names around for some of the well-known players there at Seattle. Who are some of the other Seawolves players that we should keep an eye on in the coming weeks that are maybe flying under the radar a little bit, but you've been around them at practice, you've been playing with them week in and week out, and are starting to now hopefully make a name for themselves in the MLR that we should keep an eye
on? Right now, I think a couple of the young guys, so Nakai Penny, I think he's a Canadian eligible. I think he's been in the Canadian camp a couple of times. He's been with the team for about for the first two championship seasons. He's pretty young as well. He's only 24. You know, he's been knocking on the Canadian national team door for quite some time now. So I think, you know, he's one of the unsung heroes of the last two seasons of that year, and pretty much played a very big game this past week. And then I think in the back line, we have a young British and Irish kid that's in the back line that pretty much started at 10 this weekend. Who usually starts at like inside center, but we had to move him because of a couple of things with the back line. But I think he really stepped up. You know, just bringing in his experience from being involved with Ulster and playing in the UK as well. So I think he really controlled and managed the game well. So you know, very good to have those young guys really leading the charge on that front. And I think there's also Aaron Matthews. I think he came out of like the college system. I think he was like the first draft pick, and obviously, you know, the first couple of games, you know, there's a big, you know, step up from playing college rugby. So I think, you know, just showing them that level of competition. But I think he's slowly finding his way, especially, you know, being a back three, and, you know, forwards, you know more about the back three than myself. But yeah, just positioning and like on defense, and obviously being in a good position to finish off tries.
Yeah, we should also ask how JP Smith is after he had a horrible head injury, it looked like, at the weekend. Is he all right?
Yeah, I think he's fine. Yeah, luckily, you know, obviously, big precaution with concussions nowadays. So I think we're going to rest him for a couple of weeks. But I think, yeah, I sent him a text this morning. I think he's all good on that front. But, you know, we're just telling him, you know, take all the time you need. It's going to be a long season. And yeah, just rest and recover.
Nice. You mentioned the Canadian influence that Seattle has had, and I know that especially early on there was very much, it seemed like a symbiotic relationship with Vancouver and BC being not too far away, and that being like the rugby hotbed of Canadian rugby. Is there still that sort of very fluid relationship between the Seawolves and that sort of area of Canada and the Pacific Northwest going on there? Does that pipeline still exist?
Yeah, I guess I think it's we have a lot of roots in the competition in BC because the Seattle that used to be called the Seattle Saracens always played in the Canadian League. So I think over time we've built that relationship, and it just makes sense logistically for a lot of those boys to come and play in Seattle. So just a quick trip back home. But yeah, we have a very big influence of Canadian players. From the Victoria, BC area and Vancouver, obviously. And then Canada Rugby's also has their base in, I think it's Langford. So yeah, right. We always try to recruit from there as well.
Talking of Seattle, one thing that's always really impressed me with Seattle when I came into the league the first time, I was always very impressed with the sort of like your setup. Your colors are very like the Seattle Seahawks NFL. Your crowd was always quite big. You had the smoke, you had all the environment, and it felt very professional coming into it. From obviously when you go to a few of the places, they're trying to build the following, but Seattle seemed to have that following straight away. Do you reckon that comes from winning championships and things like that? And tell us about winning championships with the Seattle Seahawks.
I think coming in, and coming into a group, especially with the team that's won the first two MLR championships, they're trying to really grow the sport in Seattle, and obviously taking out of the playbook of when they first brought football or soccer to Seattle and how it really grew. So they're trying to replicate in some instance how they could bring rugby across. So it's a big sporting city, like a lot of the cities around America. So, and just trying to get the crowd, and obviously it's probably one of the places, MLR places to play where there's always going to be a packed stadium. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think they've done a very good job, especially marketing it in Seattle, and trying to get the fans out. To Quillen and link it with the MLS team, the Sounders, because that we play at the old Sounders Stadium. Mm-hmm. I think it's only growing on this side, and obviously they might be looking at new places to go play. But I think for now the fans enjoy it. So yeah, we'll see.
Seattle have definitely been the trendsetters for the past couple of seasons, but we were talking about some of the places you played, and you mentioned that you love playing in Seattle. It's very much home for you. I just, Drew, as a question for me, as someone that's played in the championship, the Premiership, Super Rugby, Major League Rugby, how would you describe the competition here and what this league is like and what life in this league is like week in and week out? What is it most similar to? Is it most similar to the Premiership? Is it most similar to the Championship? Is it similar to Super Rugby? How would you sort of draw comparisons and parallels between some of these places you've played?
I think for the most part, from my first-hand experience last season, it is kind of loose in bits and bobs because coming from the UK, very structured, especially as a forward, knowing where to be, positioning, all that stuff. It's kind of a mixture between structured and unstructured, and at times seems very loose. Just looking at some of the running meters of like the forwards, 1 minute you're, attacking 5 meters from there, and then the next minute you're like on your 5 meters. It goes from end to end, and some of that is the result of just the style that the MLR is slowly trying to get, I guess. It's kind of loose, but at the same time, but now I think a lot of the teams are more structured, I guess. I think that was my first instance coming into the MLR last season, especially being involved with Seattle. So I'd say it is a mixture of, kind of loose Super Rugby style where you're always trying to attack as well. And the UK as well, like very forward dominant.
Attack-minded, we call it.
Exactly.
Call it attack-minded.
Attack-minded.
We defend later. We attack first. Defend later.
Got it. Yeah.
He'll score more tries than you. That's the idea of it.
Got it. Yeah.
So Drew, you've also played some sevens, right? And not to make light of your 15s career, obviously speaks for itself. But so you just came back to Seattle this season after playing in a number of different places. Was there a part of you that thought about, with the Olympics on the horizon, that you may want to throw your name back in the seventh circuit hat to sort of take a shot at the Olympics? Was that part of your psyche, or when the last Olympics passed, you had kind of put that chapter of your life behind you and wanted to sort of transition and focus more towards 15s?
Yeah, I guess I think the big thing for me was when I was in the UK, I did come back and try out for the World Cup team, the Sevens World Cup in San Francisco. And, coming back after being gone from Sevens for about a year and coming back to the training environment, the training level, it had changed so much. And, I just thought to myself, no, I don't think I can do this again, because the level of, the Sevens players now, obviously USA have gone on and evolved to a much better team than it used to when I first started with them. There's a lot of young guys, and they always say it's a young man's game, but I think it had crossed my mind a couple of times, the lure of going to an Olympics, representing your country at the Olympics. But at the same time, like, just being realistic, is like, sevens, you've got to be playing regularly, playing on the circuit regularly, because I think the standard is very high, especially now with most of the core teams being professional and training, 24/7 and staying together 24/7. I think, it's a difficult one. And for me, I just knew, I have to be in that environment for, especially being not fit enough to play sevens all the time. It usually takes me about a year to like really get into the groove of, trying to play good seven. So I was just like, just the time process was going to be just too long for me to get back in seven shape.
Now, what I love about Drew as well is that you can obviously tell by the way he speaks, he's actually got a very good head on his shoulders. And when I played with him out in Bermuda, I found out that he spent a bit of time in Japan and that he studied out there, and he speaks fluent Japanese. And then I found out also he's gone back to England to study at, was it Cambridge you were at, Drew, or was it Oxford? Which one of the two?
Oxford.
You were just at Oxford just recently. So yeah, like, that's what's impressed me about you the most as well. We talk about you traveling around, but also, you've gathered an education. You're well versed. You're well read. I think, what are your plans for after you finish rugby? You're always going to stay in rugby, or have you got ideas to sort of venture out into different aspects of the world?
Right now, a couple of guys have asked me if I wanted to coach or get into coaching, and I just said, being a player is enough pressure in itself, and I don't think I can live through being a coach again. Just the amount of pressure that's that's put on the team and all that stuff. But I would still love to get involved in rugby at whether it be just through mentorship or as a consultant. I think, I'd still want to be involved because, obviously the sport is a really great sport. It's taken me all over the world. It's opened doors. And I think the plan for me right now, as I start my program at Oxford, I think I'll get a better idea as I get into the first year of my course and my program. I'll probably have a better idea. So right now I'm still in that phase of trying to figure out what I want to do. I know that I want to be involved in professional sport, but I just don't know yet. So I'm keeping my options open for sure.
Well, when you figure it out, will you take Mike and me with you, whatever you're doing?
I'll come work for you guys. For sure.
The first time I met Drew, he was playing across from me for Puget Sound, and we were up playing there. And I remember I felt like everywhere I went, he was like breathing down my back, just like tracking me everywhere. And I felt like he was out to get me the entire game. Just like he was like my shadow. He was all over the place. And now I'm finding out, this guy that was there like hunting me basically is a well-studied scholar from Oxford. I mean, That's amazing. But Drew, you've studied at Oxford, as we were just saying, and you've got a tremendous rugby background, as we keep, patting you on the back for, which is great. But a question though, so you want to stay involved in the game. You've probably got a couple more good years left in the tank, depending on how many games you have to play this year in MLR. Maybe you can ask for a rest week or something like that. But do you plan on potentially settling in Seattle, or is that somewhere that you see yourself being long term, where you can give back to the community, or is it somewhere that you want to venture out a little bit and broaden your horizons, so to speak, throughout the rest of the country? Maybe come back to New York, just throwing that idea, planting the seed maybe. But is Seattle really your home for the long haul, do you think?
Right now, it is where I'm based at right now with the current team, but at the same time, I do love New York. I'm just going to put it out there. And that's where Drew came about, and where my parents lived while they were studying in New York. So, I always have love for New York. But for me personally, I really want to just help grow the game and, give back to American rugby. I think it is my duty to, help a lot of the young guys, fulfill their dreams and, play in at the highest level, or go overseas or get that experience. It will help drive this league, which is taken off. And obviously, getting a lot of interest from around the world. Like a lot of my friends are trying to come to America, but for now, keeping my options open. I mean, hey, if New York comes around, timing's right, I'll come back for sure.
Okay, last question before we let you go from me anyway. I want you to talk me through your wonder try at the weekend.
Right.
You hit the short line, you busted straight through, you've just got open field in front of you, and you thought, right, where am I going from here?
So basically, we took that playbook straight out of, I think if you remember, San Diego wrote this, scored a similar try with Samu Ching. They literally did the same move. So I guess, we were trying to isolate, that seam. He obviously just hit me because I was supposed to be the second option, and he landed in my hands. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna go out and just see what happens. So I think, I just caught me by surprise. I think caught the other guys by surprise because they were drifting. So I just went as hard as I could, especially in the front line. Being a forward, just trying getting over the advantage line, and it just worked out for me. I think it opened up, and some people say it's 40. I'd say it's 7. I run it in from 70.
It's a hell of a finish, dude. You're carrying 3 or 4 guys over with you at the end. So it's a great score.
I was just trying to. I was literally trying to go left, but then my mind was just like, no, I don't have enough in the tank. I'm just gonna go straight.
It's amazing how my mind works like that as well. I don't think I got a 40 meter in me anymore. So
exactly,
just looking at, I'm not going to be able to do this season.
Exactly. Yeah.
Just final question from me, because we've talked about all the different places you've played. We've talked about that you're just a unit when you carry the ball here, right? So you've probably been exposed to an array of different nutritional aspects of the game. Favorite pregame and postgame meal based on all these different places that you live? What are you eating before and what are you eating after? What makes you tick?
I was, played sevens for a very long time, and Mike Friday and Chris Brown used to make me go on this salad diet before games, because they just thought it was like psychological for me. They're like, like, Drew, you don't need any carbs. So like, it just make me think that, I was ready for a game. But obviously playing 15s is different. You need the carbs to play 80 minutes. I think now, as I'm getting older, I try to eat pretty healthy before game, and obviously get your carbs in, your pasta and stuff like that, but not too close to the game. And post-match meal, I gotta go with Mackie D's all the time.
Looking for that sponsorship, Mackie D's.
Exactly. I've been trying for a couple of years now, man. I'm still trying to get that sponsorship, even through retirement. I'm still trying to get this sponsorship.
I was just, Drew, I set that one up for you. I knew that was the answer that was coming down the pipeline, so I just set it up for you. Nice little underhand slow pitch straight over the plate.
Thank you. Yeah, because now Summer's in, and he's just like, look at him, he's like, bang, bang, we're going to make it decent. I'm just like, wait, I'm coming.
Awesome. All right, we'll call it there, Drew. Thank you very much for stopping by the Clubhouse. Always a pleasure to speak to you. You are awesome to watch on the field. You show so much experience, and also as a guy, you're one of the best. So thanks for coming on, and good chatting to you, bud.
Thank you so much. Thank you, folks, and thank you, Peaches. Yeah, it's a pleasure, and yeah, I'll see you guys next time.
Drew, it was great to catch up. Thanks for all you've done for American rugby, man. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much, brother. I'll catch you soon.
Sport has the power to change the world. It has the power to inspire. It has the power to unite people in a way that little else does. It speaks to youth in a language they understand. Sport can create hope where once there was only despair.
Hi, I'm Andy Ellis from Rugby United New York, and you're watching the USA Rugby Clubhouse.
So our second guest on the show is none other than my teammate who needs no introduction. 10 years a Crusader, 6 years in Japan playing for the Steelers, filling up the bank account, 28 caps for New Zealand, and most importantly, a World Cup winner. And now my teammate, as I mentioned, a RUNY Rooster. It's Andy Ellis. Andy, how are you, bud?
Good, folks. Lovely to talk to you. How was that dojo this afternoon, mate? You enjoy that?
No, I didn't enjoy that, no. Marty was loving it way too much as well. He was joining in and stuff. And the forwards one's always a bit harder looking than the backs one, but it was still pretty, you know. My back's a bit sore and my toes.
I know you had been sneaking off the first couple of weeks, eh? So I know the boys were pretty excited to have you in the doing a bit of wrestling today. So welcome.
Well, I was worried when you were like, you were moaning about it in the morning as well to me, going, "Oh, the dojo's hard." Oh, mate, it's good to have you on, though. I mean, we only spoke a couple of hours ago, but good to have you on the show. First RUNY Rooster as well. We've sort of been delaying it. Obviously, we've got a lot of RUNY Roosters in Mike and obviously myself. But I wanted to get your opinions, you know, on the league. But first of all, I'm going to start with sort of like your rugby background, because obviously you were born in Canterbury and you ended up playing 10 years for Canterbury Crusaders. And if anyone's not, you know, if any of our new fans are not too familiar of rugby or what rugby's like in New Zealand, it really is the mecca of all sports in New Zealand. And so for you as a kid growing up in Canterbury, I'm sure it was, you know, your dream to play for the Crusaders.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. Yeah, it's sort of a way of life, really, I think, in a lot of ways in New Zealand. I was woken up when I was 3 years old by my dad to watch, you know, the All Blacks versus England and at Twickenham, and watch them doing the haka 3 o'clock in the morning, I think it was, in New Zealand, to watch a test match back then, you know. So and then it starts at about that age before you can, well, just as you're starting to learn how to walk, really. And then it doesn't stop, you know. Kids at school, till we play at lunchtime. You know, you drive through our cities and there's rugby posts at every ground. So yeah, it really is. It's a way of life in New Zealand. And it's pretty cool because it's something that our small country of only 4 or 5 million, we're one of the best at in the world. So something that we're all very proud of.
Do you reckon that's one of the reasons why New Zealand have been so dominant, especially since it turned professional? Just because it is your number one sport, you know, all sort of kids want to be an All Black. That's the main goal. There's not really much soccer. There's not much, you know, basketball or anything like that overriding it. So, you know, first off the bat, it's, can you be a professional rugby player, or then you'll start thinking about other sports if you can't quite do that?
No, I think all sports are sort of a lot things like soccer and I know cricket's a big sport in New Zealand. Kids are sort of into everything now, especially mum's a little bit more nervous about kids playing rugby. So there are some challenges around that. But it certainly does help that there's a lot of lot of families that it's been a big part of. Dad's played at the local club, and then his dad has as well, and so the kids, it's sort of almost, like I say, it's kind of almost a way of life, really, that as a young nippet, you're down there watching your dad, and you're at the club rooms and drinking Coke and eating chips, and it carries on through. And like we were saying earlier, my dad would take me to games, and he used to bring actually it was at Lancaster Park in Christchurch. He used to take a bucket and get me a pie and a Coke, and we'd go in the embankment, and he'd turn the bucket upside down so I could stand on it, so that I could then watch the Canterbury team or the Crusaders team play. And I'd be there with Dad, and the stands were full, and people would be yelling, and it grew this sort of real, I don't know, tribal kind of passion, that this was a big part of who we were and what we stood for, and me and my dad do this together, and it's kind of what we do. So I suppose it's maybe in America, maybe there's sports like that as well. I'm sort of slowly understanding it more and more as I'm here, but certainly in New Zealand, that's something that we hold pretty tight.
And I'll tell you what, you've mentioned it already, the haka. As I was a kid watching rugby as well, there was always something so special about watching the haka. I think as a kid, I thought that maybe I could eventually be on the field doing the haka. Obviously, I made it to face the haka, which was pretty special in its own right. But like to do the haka, like you said, you watched it at 3 a.m, you watch the haka. What's that experience doing it like in Eden Park in front of 60,000 All Blacks or 60,000 All Black fans?
It's pretty special. It's even more special when you get to do it when you're, I think, well, for me, when you're away from home and at somewhere like Twickenham when there are no fans there, but you get to push a bit of what we're really proud of back home on, another country. Yeah, again, like you learn it at primary school, it's what we're doing. It's what we're doing at lunchtime, teaching each other and learning. And Dad's taught someone the next move of the haka, and then someone doesn't know it, so you'll quickly learn it together. And obviously, it's a big part of what we're really proud of when we see the All Blacks do it. And when you actually make the All Blacks and you're involved in it, I think that's when it really hits home, because we get some of our top Maori kamatuas come in and really teach us the understanding and the meaning behind it. And when you start to understand that, when you stamp your feet, it flows down to your ancestors, and there's strength and all the real deep meaning behind it, then it's something really, really powerful and a lot deeper than what people see on TV. The meaning within the group is really becomes really special, So then when you get to go and do it wherever you are, if you're at home, it's really special, Eden Park, or if you're at Twickenham, then man, that's pretty cool to think that, hey, it's a way that we're connecting back to our home and our people and portraying what we believe in and what we find really special. So yeah, it's something more than just a war dance. It's something that really connects all New Zealanders together, I think.
I'm going to ask you, I'm going to hate the answer. How many times you play at Twickenham?
I've lost count. How
many times you won at Twickenham? I reckon you've won every time you've been there, right?
Yeah, I haven't lost to the Poms, to the English yet.
Yeah. Okay. Good. Yeah.
Always a good battle though. Always a good battle. But
always a good battle. That's the way it should be. Yeah. Always a good match against. Honestly, it's probably one of the proudest moments is probably playing. I know I played New Zealand twice at Twickenham and never won, but it's still one of the proudest moments. Weirdly, just because they're just so iconic. And playing for England, that's the game. The first game of rugby I ever watched was the All Blacks versus England at Old Trafford when Jonah Lomu played, and he ran rampant. And I think they drew in the end. And a winger called Dave Rees chipped and chased over Jonah's head and lost all his teeth when he dotted the ball down. But ever since then, I just wanted to play against New Zealand, and so yeah, for me,
nice. Well, my first test, my debut was as a young fellow in 2006, was in Twickenham at a cellar, 83,000 or something. And yeah, I remember coming on, and it was just like, oh, wow, awesome. And actually after the game, Leon McDonald, who's now the Auckland Blues head coach, I was playing with him at the time, and the All Blacks only get one jersey to swap after the game. My first test, Leon gave me his jersey to then swap with my opposition player so that I could have the All Black and the England jersey to then hang on my wall one day. So that's a really special memory for me. It was a good one too.
Not a bad one, not a bad one. Okay, and obviously, you know, there's been big moments, you said, going to Twickenham and doing that, but I have to talk to you about the World Cup in 2011, because I was involved in that World Cup with an England team who didn't do very well, made the headlines for all the wrong reasons, but we won't go into that. But I remember being there, and even on the flight out, you know, you guys were on the flight, you were doing the flight check-in, you know, in case of an emergency, you do this and you put your life vests on. I remember seeing all you boys everywhere, you know, going down the street. There was, you know, Dan Carter would be in his underwear in some underwear store, turn on the TV, you were doing some advert. You were everywhere in New Zealand. And I always thought, Jesus, you were seeded #1 in the world before the World Cup, and everyone was like, New Zealand are going to win. There was a huge amount of pressure on New Zealand to win that World Cup. And, you know, obviously you did it, which is like an unbelievable achievement, but you did stutter. There were some big things that happened as well. You got injuries. You know, was it Luke Donald who got flown in, you know, the day before the final and ended up kicking the winning kick and all that sort of stuff. Tell me about the environment of being a home World Cup and then sort of the sense of relief of winning it and the, you know, the whole episode that followed.
Yeah, well, like I explained earlier, like rugby is a big part of our what we do in New Zealand. We hadn't won the World Cup in 15 years, longer, 20. Anyway, whatever it was. So, and we'd been fairly dominant through most of that period, but when it had come to World Cups, we hadn't been able to get the job done. Now we had a World Cup at home and the country pretty much stopped. And I remember, you know, before it started, they sent out 3 or 4 guys to lots of little towns all over New Zealand. So we'd venture out so that we could touch, you know, all the smaller communities, you know, like really wanted to be about representing our country and let the guys understand it. It blew me away. I couldn't believe it. We drive to these little farming districts and people had painted like the sides of their farms, like hills, black, and then said All Blacks in the middle, and all the letterboxes were black. And then we arrived at the small town, and you'd think there would probably only be 200 people in this town, and there'd be 10,000 people that would be there, and they'd come from every district around and cheering and flags. And that's probably at that point, I reckon, that's when it hit home to me that, okay, right, this is pretty serious now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, like it was challenging World Cup. It always is. You know better than anyone, folks. When you go and you play, you know, round robins back to back, and you don't have a break to mentally prepare for big games every week. It's a challenge. So there was all that going on too, you know. And man, by the end of it, after the final, I sort of remember looking around. Boys were sitting there, and it was more a sense of relief than anything. Everyone was just like a big deep sigh. Thank goodness we've done it. You know, there wasn't a lot of celebrating even. You know, I mean, sure there was the following 3 days, as you can imagine, but at that moment it was like, thank goodness, you know, and got to be there and just it was job done.
I remember watching. Obviously, I watched the semi-final and final from home, but I remember watching you guys in the groups. And you were smashing teams. And then you got to the quarterfinal. And who was the quarterfinal? You had quite a tough quarterfinal, didn't you?
No, the Argies, was it? Maybe?
Yeah. Basically, everyone was like, oh, they haven't really been tested because you'd blown everyone away in the competition. And then as it got closer and closer to the final, the games got tighter and tighter. And then you played against a really up and down French team, obviously a French team that knocked out England and then knocked out Wales. There's controversy in that, but everyone thought that France was sort of like a little bit here. Their coaches and their players had fallen out. There was a lot of talk around that. So everyone thought you were going to, you know, wipe the floor with France. But that's the weird thing with the French team, is that they have the ability to turn it on just randomly. You know, they just put a performance together, and they certainly did that in the final. And it was, you know, it would have been, I think it would have been the worst thing for rugby if New Zealand didn't win that final. So I completely understand your sense of relief, like, because I could just see the pressure building and building, and then obviously injuries and guys coming in and that sort of stuff. It was, I think it made it even more fascinating and interesting to watch, though, because it would have been a little bit boring if New Zealand has spanked everyone by 30 points and then won the World Cup by the final. You want finals to be close. It keeps everyone in their seat.
Well, I mean, we played France earlier on. They were in our round robin, and we'd given them a good spank, and so it was like, prepared really well for that final. Obviously, like we knew it was going to be a completely different side, but it's almost like what was going on behind closed doors with the French. It almost sort of galvanised them. We're really up against it here, and sort of the French way, right? Let's go and prove the world wrong, or prove ourselves right. I don't know, whatever it was, but and they were physical and they were hungry and everything we kind of thought they would have been, but when they hit the ground running, yeah.
And so then when you're crowned the champions, they get the medal around your neck, you lift the trophy up, you said you have the sense of relief. Then tell me about the following 3-4 days of celebrations, or is it all hush hush behind closed doors, no one's to know?
Well, I'll tell you some of that stuff tomorrow at training, folks, but
I'm guessing you did like a bus parade and you went parading around and did all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, mate. It was fantastic, really, like it, because there was so much all friends and family, and everyone were all based in New Zealand, so pretty cool to be able to sort of share it with them immediately after. All those really special people came back to the hotel, and we spent a lot of time together, and everyone had photos with the cup and did all that really cool stuff, which was great. And then still sort of pretty much kicked off after that, probably a bit after midnight, I suppose.
Who's the ringleader? Who's flying the flag? Who's the biggest in your team?
There was a few ringleaders. But yeah, then there was the I think the parade was the next day. A little bit of a blur, folks. But fantastic. The streets were packed in Auckland, and kids everywhere got to really got to just celebrate with all those people who had supported us right through. Yeah. And then after that we went to we flew to either Christchurch or Wellington, and we did we stayed the night there and did a big parade there, and then we flew to either Christchurch, one or the other one, and did a big parade there. And it was all just a fantastic. I don't know, it's just like I say, a sense of relief, but also a really nice chance. We talked a lot about in the environment doing it for for the community and for the people and for the country. So to actually then get back and reconnect with all those people, I think that was quite a special thing, and just feel all that energy and really enjoy that side of it. Yeah.
Well, you must have at least a story to rival Manu Tuilagi jumping off a ferry, because we only got to the quarterfinal and he was still celebrating like that. So surely there must have been some things going on. Tell me, how long was the longest players celebration? Who went for the longest? Who did the longest run? Who disappeared for 2 weeks and was, wearing his medal and wearing the same clothes for 2 weeks, probably his playing shirt and his socks and his boots? Come on, Andy, give me some juice. I'm after the juice.
My old mate outside me is always a pretty good time.
I've heard about Dad. He likes to. He has a few sherries.
Yeah, good. Always up for a good time. A good banter. Although he did obviously tore his groin early, so he sort of missed out on that in the last couple of games. All the boys have a different way about going about their work. I appreciate and I respect the likes of Tony Woodcock and Andrew Hawes, who are happy just to sit there and drink until the sun comes up, and then down, and then up and down again. And it looks like they haven't had a drink after days and days. I'm always amazed by that, because I'm a greyhound, mate. I'm in and out. I can't really. I'm not a real stay.
You go out hard and fast, and then you're home early. And
I really am. Yeah. And the old boys are just still sitting there, just nodding, winking, just telling the same old war stories, mate. It's amazing, really.
They like to watch the young pups who run around making fools of themselves.
Yeah. I always
tell those stories.
Yeah, so that's probably as much info as I can give out.
I understand. So I'm going to take you back to when you were younger. So talk to me about how you got into the game. Obviously, you mentioned that it's like, it's ingrained in the blood over there. You're sort of baptized with fire at school, in the schoolyard, playing rugby. And then what I want to know is, when did you know yourself that you could make a career and potentially play for the All Blacks? What point in your life was that sort of switch, like, yeah, this is something I can do for a living?
Yeah, mate, like I played, I started playing when I was 6 years old, Burnside Club, they were called. And actually it's cool because my son this year played his first year for Burnside Club and I was the coach. So there we were, mate, down there playing, racing around together. Yeah, it was so cool. So it's almost, yeah. And my dad coached me back in the day too. So it was nice to get down there with him. I played right through. I didn't go to a very strong rugby school, but always just really loved rugby. Played number 8 right up until I was 15 or 16. As you can probably tell, mate. But I was never going to grow any taller and bigger. You know, my dad and I made that decision. It's probably time to move on. So yeah, moved to 9. Played 9 right through. Made a couple of the age group Canterbury teams, under 15s and under 16s, and then missed out for a couple of years as well. I went overseas to England actually to play cricket when I finished school. And then when I came back, I thought, I loved cricket, but my passion is rugby. So I gave rugby a really, really good crack. That was my focus. So I trained really hard, did everything I could. And remember, I missed out on the Canterbury under 19 Canterbury team. And I thought, I started crying actually, pulled over on the side of the road. And I thought to myself, well, if I can't make the Canterbury under 19 team, then probably is it time to look at something else? And I had one of those moments like, how am I going to go about it? And ultimately I decided that, nah, bugger it, I'm going to give it absolutely everything over this next off season and do everything I can and have no excuses. I don't want to be one of those guys down at the club rooms that I'd heard with my dad saying, I could have done it, but I just didn't, we got injured or I drank too much piss or whatever. So I didn't want to be one of those guys. So I made the call that I was going to work, and I worked real hard for 3 or 4 months. And by the end of that year, I made the Canterbury Academy. So I played really well for the 19B team. I got a trial for New Zealand under 21s the following year. I made that team. Then I made the Canterbury team off the back of that, and then I made the Crusaders off the back of that. So within 12 or 14 months, I'd actually gone from crying on the side of the road, wondering if I should just throw it in, to now making the Crusaders rugby team. And at the end of that season, I made the All Blacks. So within 18 months, kind of everything changed so much. And I often look back and I think it was that moment where I had the chance to make a decision, and I made a decision that ultimately kind of changed my life in that moment, really.
Good decision.
So that's kind of a bit about my... Yeah.
Good decision, Andy. You made a cracking decision. Good decision. Okay, I want to talk to you about American rugby now, because you're over here. I know you're sort of similar to me at the end of you're sort of coming towards the end of your career. What enticed you firstly to New York, but also to give the MLR a crack?
We'd have a fantastic time in Japan. We'd had 6 years there. We loved it. Really happy to go home and finish up, get on to the next journey, in our life. But I sort of said to my wife, we both sort of said together, I still feel good. My body's really good. I really love competing still. I think I've got a lot to give still to the game. So, if a really cool place came up, would we consider it? And yeah, we decided we would. And 2 weeks later, the head coach of New York flicked me a message and said, "Hey, are you interested in coming over?" And I was like, "Oh, New York, absolutely." Ben Foden plays here, doesn't he?
There you go. I was the selling point, was it? That was the thing.
Yeah, mate. And so, it was just real. I know it's just a really cool. It's a great challenge for me. Mm-hmm. Something really. I'm outside my comfort zone. It's a new competition, it's a new group of men from all over the world. I think there's 11 different nationalities in our squad. So how do you bind a team and bring them together and get them to buy into a bigger purpose and go and try and do something really special? That really excites me. And then and like I said, I still love competing. I still love playing. So, mate, 6 months later, here we are.
What do you think? What do you think of the standard? Like, you can be completely honest. The standard of the, you've come from obviously a very professional atmosphere. Even in Japan, there's probably quite a professional atmosphere. Coming to New York, it's very different because, you weren't here for the first year, and I was, where we were on Randall's Island training and traveling all the way down to MCU Park and the gym. We'd be in one gym one week and turning back up, and they'd be like, "Oh no, you're not at this gym anymore," and trailing off to central sort of Manhattan to find another gym that we're now part of. And it was just all here and there. But even now, it's come on leaps and bounds, and it will do every year, because I really think we've got the right people driving it from the top, and the players and the management and all that sort of stuff are really slotting in now. But what has been your take of American rugby, going on the field, competing against Americans, other guys that have come in from other teams?
American rugby, I'm really surprised by the standard. I think it's a lot higher than what I thought it would be. There's some really good, like talent-wise, skill sets are better than what I thought they'd be. There's some real speed, and things like set piece are of a very good standard too. So in terms of the American rugby, it's competitive, and if not the same, then higher, I think, in some aspects than in Japan. And I think it helps you get the international influence here too. You're allowed a lot more international players on the field, which can help grow and enhance the American guys as well. So everyone's learning and growing off each other the whole time, which I think is pretty cool. New York side of things, it's been really interesting, like understanding where the team had been and where they're going. I think that's important to understand that too. It's been pretty challenging here, but the other thing you realise real quickly from landing in New York is this is kind of what the people here do. They hustle, and they often find a way, and a bit of adversity, it's all good. If it's snowing, it's snowing. If it's hissing hot, it's hot. But everyone sort of finds a way, and they make a life of it, and you see it. And quite often, New York people, they're like quite short with each other. There's not a lot of love and hugging and stuff like that. But you also find now when it starts to get a little bit tough, they're the first ones to come and put their arm around each other, and they're probably one of the strong. They've got each other's back. So I love that, because that resonates so tightly with what our team's trying to achieve too.
Okay, and so obviously you've come. You mentioned that you've come for sort of like a change of scenery, to challenge yourself out of your comfort zone. But what do you think the most important thing? You're a World Cup winner. You've played, for one of the greatest teams in rugby, and you've come from probably the biggest stage in terms of, winning a World Cup and that sort of thing. What do you personally bring to the MLR, do you think, that makes you stand out a bit different? Because for me, seeing your involvement in RUNY and what you've brought, you've brought a big change to how things are at RUNY. And I think that the MLR as well, having guys like you involved, obviously Marnonu was involved in other years, Chris Robshaw's come over this year. What do you think your sort of involvement in the MLR is doing for the sport as a whole?
I don't know. I'm not really too sure, mate. But what I have realised real quick too is a lot of my mates from back home messaging, asking, "Hey, States, how is it? What's it like? Is it everything you thought?" And I'm responding, "Yeah, it's even better than I thought, boys. Get over here, come and have a taste of it." Like the potential here is amazing. People here love sport and they love entertainment, and so I'm getting a haircut by the barber, and I know I've only got a couple of haircuts left of me. I know, but and he's like, "Rugby, I'd love to watch rugby. How can I watch it? Where can I find it? What can I do?" My my wife got a jab today, and she had to write down the name of our team and how to follow us on Instagram and everything, and where you can go to games, because this lady wanted to come and be involved and see it and love it. So the potential here is enormous. So it's nice to be part of that. Hopefully that I can help kind of develop and grow and create some excitement around it in some ways, and see if I can't pull some of the other old boys over this way too to help just in that growing phase, I think, over here. Yeah.
So I should really ask, how, you mentioned you've got your wife and your young kids over here, and can you see yourself staying another year? Can you see yourself becoming a coach out here? Are you going to sort of be around and be part of the whole MLR and grow it and be part of it? Or are you looking to head back home and set up shop? You mentioned that you were looking to head home after Japan, and what's the future hold for Andy Ellis?
Yeah, we do. We love New Zealand, and the kids are looking forward to getting back at some stage. But this really is part of our family adventure, and we're loving it so far. I want to try and really help implement a strong culture and identity and some really good habits and behaviours at the club. And I want to play a really exciting style of rugby here too. So it just depends if by the end of the season we've got everything in place and all the boys are really bought in, and we're on a mission to build another skyscraper. Then I'm happy to leave. But if it needs a little bit more work, then I'll consider having.
Don't be telling Rick and Marty that. They'll have you signed up before you know it, mate.
Hey, at the moment, we're really loving it. The boys are fantastic. What we're slowly creating here is really special. So we'll just see how that all goes and make a call later.
Very, very well handled, Andy. Very well handled. Okay, before you go, you wouldn't out any of your mates from the World Cup, but you have been involved with a team that I am desperate to play for. The Barbarians, who is a world select sort of 15 who come together and they play all over the world. And you've been involved with them a couple of times. And notoriously, the Barbars is known to be like, one of the best touring sides to be on, just because you go there, you drink midweek, you play a really good brand of rugby, the kind of rugby that people want to go and see. But it's notorious for sort of having little stories behind it. Come on, give us a little bit of insight behind the life of a Barbarian.
Mate, you got to give me more heads up than this.
I'm trying to catch you out. I just need you to hang out someone to drive.
You wanted me to hang someone out here. First of all, Barbars is the most incredible experience. Honestly, it's like the essence of why you play the game. You sort of almost fall in love with it all back again in 1 week. It's all these guys from all over the world that some of them you thought were a real douchebag. All of a sudden you realise are absolute champions. No, not you, of course. And you're really on the same page with a lot of stuff, and you get on really well and have a hell of a week. Drink far too much. But then you go out there and you just get to play the game because you love it, and it's often to a sellout at the Millennium or Twickenham or wherever as well, So I love that side of it. Now, in terms of stories,
no PG-13 ones, is there? That's the problem.
They're all way too dodgy, mate. No, look, I think probably the thing is you often see, because in the Barbars, the first day you're there, you sit in a room and your name gets called out, and you go up to the front and you get given an envelope, and it's full of £5,000 worth of salmons. 50 £50 notes. We used to call them salmons. Is that what you call them? That's all I know. Salmons.
Because they're pink. They're pink.
Mate, and sure enough, there's always a couple of young fellas who have been brought in, and they blow it the first night, just buying the whole bar drinks, and it's almost like Monopoly money.
It is. It's
so
not
you learn those lessons pretty early on, and you tuck it away, especially being from New Zealand, folks.
Okay. Cool. Well, I'm still waiting for the phone call, Andy. So if you can make that happen for me, we'll have a little, maybe our little farewell tour can be with the Barbarians together.
Oh, imagine you in London with a wallet full of salmons. What a night!
What a night. Well, Andy, I'm going to let you go. I could talk to you forever, mate, and I'll talk to you forever tomorrow or on the next day. I'm very lucky. We're blessed to have you in the team at RUNY. Honestly, you've done enormous things for the club going forward, and I know there's a New Zealand sort of strategic people of, you know, with Guy owning the team now and Rick coming in, and just the level of professionalism that you've all brought, especially you as a player coming into that, has been top notch. So I can say it on behalf of everyone at RUNY, like, you know, we are very grateful having your caliber of player, but also as a guy as well. You're a gent. Always got a smile on your face. Most competitive guy I've met for our age. You know, usually that's the younger lads trying to prove a point, but I learned pretty quickly that you still have that killer edge in you. So thanks for coming on the show, and thanks for being part of the Clubhouse.
Thanks, mate. I feel like I want to give you a hug right now, but thanks, mate. No, I'm the lucky one, mate. I love what I'm doing.
And I'll show you New York when it really opens up. I'll show you the real New York. We'll make some few more stories that we can't tell anyone about.
Good man. All right.
Cool. Cheers, bud.
Thanks, brother.
It's competition time again, guys, with the Budgie Smugglers Hidden Talent. We've seen a few posts from Troy Lockyer from RUNY showing a bit of magic. Also, Max Evans joining in with a little backflip into the sea off the cliff. Some impressive entries coming in, but you could still have this opportunity to win an entire set of Budgie Smugglers for your team. All you have to do is make your video, tag USA Rugby Clubhouse, and then also use the hashtag Smugglers Hidden Talent, and you could win this fabulous prize. Good luck, guys. Well, what an awesome show we've had so far. Love talking to Andrew. Obviously, my teammate as a Royal in the Bermuda Tens, and obviously your teammate playing for America. And, you know, he's well-traveled, well-versed, and obviously a good head on his shoulders as well. Very well-educated, you know, speaking Japanese and things like that. He's a very interesting character.
He's a great guy. I've loved playing with Andrew. I've loved playing alongside him. Hated playing against him. I had like flashbacks sometimes when I see him to when we used to go out with Nyack and play Old Puget Sound when he was up in Seattle. And he was, you know, as a 9, you have nightmares about 7s like that, like just ferocious and just so physical. And all I could say is when I found out that I was playing with him, I was pretty psyched. And so I'm lucky to be friends with a guy like that and to call him a friend and teammate. And so I know you can say the same. So it's great to have him on our show.
Yeah. And, you know, as every week we had great guests. We've had great previous guests as well. We're going to keep bringing you more and more guests to keep the show interesting. Maybe a little bit of celeb factor along the line as well, as we're obviously trying to increase people's thirst for the game, and obviously you bring a bit of star power into it. We can try and turn some more heads.
I'll have to go through and see which kind of star power I could bring to the table, folks. I gotta, you know, I gotta see what I can offer here.
Don't sell yourself short. Okay, anyway, let's take a look at the weekend's fixtures coming up. Another big week for all teams involved. All teams are back playing 6 fixtures, no bye weeks for any teams. We'll start off with Seattle versus Toronto at Toronto, which means that, you know, where will Toronto be playing? I think they'll be back at Atlanta, which means that'll probably be a little bit more like a home fixture for them. Seattle got their tails up, finally got the victory they've been looking for, taking a good scalp. Maybe there'll be a bit of spring in their step. Toronto, you know, be licking their wounds from a hiding they just got. How do you see that one going out, Mikey?
I'm going to go with Seattle. I think that they're a side that they showed what they're capable of this past weekend. They beat a really good informed Utah team. I think that one goes to Seattle for sure.
I'm going to go against you. I'm going Toronto again. I just think that Toronto are capable of turning it on. I think after the hiding they got, they'll really be looking to right some wrongs. Being at home, probably not traveling as much. Hopefully being at Atlanta means that they'll be a little bit more fresh. But it will be a close game. Yeah, so I'm going Toronto. Listen, I don't know why I give an opinion, because obviously I'm all
both neither one of us really.
I know.
really get these
I'm
right.
very nervous about these calls. Anyway, let's move on to the Free Jacks versus NOLA. I think, the Free Jacks look really good leading to the bye week. I think they were very stubborn against Utah. They're playing at home. Obviously, they're playing away now at NOLA, which I always thought, NOLA at home was always sort of gave them that little feel of invincibility. But we've seen that's not true as Austin beat them at home. So, they could be vulnerable. I think Free Jacks are a good side, and I think they're getting better and getting momentum. So I'd probably go the Free Jacks against NOLA.
I'd have to agree. I usually would go with NOLA as the home side. I think that, like you said, though, the Free Jacks have been playing good ball, and I think that they're going to go down to New Orleans, and I think that they're going to get a job done. So I'm going to go with New England in that clash.
Then we move on to Utah versus San Diego. Both teams will be hurting. San Diego, obviously, without Rob Shaw, they'll be praying to the rugby gods that Nate's back. They need him back. They need that 9-10 of him and JP firing, because they're missing some kind of edge, aren't they, San Diego? And obviously, the Utah, it was the first week that you saw them come unstuck, really. I didn't feel that they were the Utah that we've seen in previous weeks. They didn't look quite as confident on the ball, didn't look like their strategies were paying off as well. So I think they'll be looking to right some wrongs. So a big fixture for both teams.
If I'm not mistaken, has Utah had a break yet in the schedule? I don't know that Utah's had a week off yet.
No.
Yeah, I don't know that they've had a week off yet, and I think that's starting to show in perhaps in the way that they play. I mean, I don't know, right? But as you know, it's tough, that grind week in and week out, being on the road, traveling across the country. It can take its toll. But that said, I do think that, like we said, San Diego has been really struggling these past few weeks. And I usually, as I've said in the past, I've been a big Legion fan. I've always said that I thought that they were capable of big things, and I still believe that in the long run. But I am going to go again with Utah. I think that the Warriors have been putting in some good performances, and I believe that in this particular moment, they're gonna take out San Diego this weekend.
I'm going to go against you. I'm going to go San Diego. I think San Diego going back home. I think that if they do get Nate back, that will be a massive plus. And I think that if San Diego are going to be serious about, I know it's only, week 5, but if they're going to be serious about competing in that West Coast conference, that they need to start winning. And I think this is going to be a real big turning point for them if they can get the home win, moving back to San Diego, bolstering the squad with new signings, getting Nate, people like that back in this fold. I think this could be a big turning moment for them.
Yeah, when you put it that way, I had been thinking in the back of my head that San Diego was going home. That I think will make a huge difference. I don't know, though. I don't know if that's enough to sway me, and I think I am going to stick with the Warriors this weekend. But you're right in that San Diego could be a very different team than we've seen in the weeks past, now that they are headed home to Southern California.
And I think it's a no-brainer for this next one. It's LA taking on the SaberCats. LA proved that they can go away and win, and they look the part. I've been nothing but impressed with them. I've been sort of hoping that they were going to slip up just so it would show their vulnerability, but they don't seem to have any. They've got no chinks in their armor. They look the real deal. So I think that LA are going to go off to the SaberCats. And although SaberCats got a good win at the weekend, I think it's a big ask for them to double up against a very, very strong LA team.
That's probably the only one that, like, I would agree that I would say when you look at it, we were talking about it, that the really exciting part of this league is that any weekend it's anybody's game and anything can happen. But the big but is unless you're playing Los Angeles, then it seems like then Los Angeles just happens to be the team to beat. But that said, when are you playing LA? Is that could be the one that takes them down maybe in the future? Is that?
Well, I don't want to jinx us, mate. I don't want to jinx us. Next game, Atlanta versus Austin down in Austin. Austin looked good on the road against on NOLA. I thought they looked. I think they've been again another team that have got better with every performance. Atlanta, I think they're a strong side still, though. Obviously, they're on the road. I think it'd be a very close game. Probably a score in it.
I definitely agree. That'll be a close game. I think if you had asked me 2 weeks ago, I would have said Atlanta hands down. I wouldn't have even hesitated. but I do think that Austin has been building. I think that they've had 2 good wins. They beat a Houston team, kept them scoreless. They held San Diego this past weekend. They had another really nice win. And so I think that these past 2 weeks, they've really showed what they're capable of, and they're starting to get confidence. And I think that that's going to be Austin's game to take this weekend.
Me as a moron player, I always look at things like, well, we played NOLA, we got spanked by NOLA, Austin played NOLA, Austin beat NOLA, and we beat Atlanta, so surely Austin are going to beat NOLA, if you know what I mean. So
Yeah.
You just don't. So Austin beat NOLA last week. I think Austin have got the momentum. They're playing at home. I'm going Austin to beat Atlanta. And the final game, I don't like to talk about it. It's DC versus RUNY, first home game for RUNY, going to be a cracker. What I will say is that what I really hope happens, especially with the DC team, with the Free Jacks and with RUNY, I'm just hoping for real big rivalries to sprout from them, from players, a bit chirpy, put something on the game. I know the Boston guys will, get what's it called? What am I trying to say? They get
you need some rabble rousers. You need some rabble rousers in the lineups.
Yeah, get some rabble rousers. There you go.
Just start Luke Hume this weekend in New York, and you'll get plenty to entertain people with creating some rivalries. But that said, I love seeing Luke back in your lineup. I'm excited for you all to come home to New York, albeit you can't welcome any fans to it. I know you're playing in Jersey City as well, so it's kind of not the same. It's a new ground. I do believe you're playing at a football arena as well, right? So
yeah,
maybe the DC team will be all over the place with all different lines. If you guys have been there before, maybe that'll be an advantage for you. But as I've said all along, I am biased towards RUNY, and when that LA game comes, I may feel differently. But right now, New York, DC, I'm sticking with New York. I think that you guys have a great organization. And I think that, you've got some world-class players, definitely with Andy Ellis leading the charge there, calling the shots for you. I think that you're going to do a number on DC this weekend at home.
Well, there you have it. Mikey's predictions, my predictions. They haven't been the best. I won't be going putting money on things, but we like to give our 50p where it's worth. So I think it's going to be a great weekend of rugby. Again, all six fixtures, every team's involved. I think this is the part of the season as well where people can start pulling away. Obviously, LA are leading the charge in the West Coast, but the East Coast is still battling for positions, and now being an East Coast fixture with DC versus RUNY, I think we're going to see some moves in that table. So plenty of rugby for you to put your feet up and watch on the couch, Mikey.
A New York Los Angeles rivalry in the end, folks, is that's a pretty good storyline. So. Yeah. That's one that certainly I would look forward to.
Don't try and write that too early, Mikey. I think we've got a long way to go. Well, I want to thank all our guests for coming on the show, and obviously always a pleasure talking to you, Mike. Smile on your face. I think you enjoyed this weekend's rugby. I don't like the fact that you're turning into a bit of an LA fan, but I know you're still loyal to the RUNY Roosters.
I used to live in Los Angeles, folks. I used to live there. I enjoyed my time in LA. I'm all right. That's okay. I could have my second love there in Los Angeles on the West Coast. That's all right.
Have you heard your accent, Mikey? No, you can't. You're a RUNY Rooster through and through, my friend.
Stuck out like a sore thumb during my time in LA.
Anyway, always a pleasure chatting to you, Mike. But we come to the end of the show, sadly, not enough time. And as always, we'll see you in the clubhouse.